What's up? It is 2 p.m. on a Wednesday afternoon. Thanks for tuning in to Cannabis Legalization News, where we explain marijuana laws so you can change them. Hey, Tom. Hey, Mickey.
Yo.
Hey, did you see the FDA got listicle on our ass?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Picking
The
up from
FDA
Dazed.
is getting listy, I tell you. On Delta-8.
Let's say the same agency that lets you put disclaimers about like death and bleeding on your products, and that you're going to warn us about Delta-8. But sure, let's go with that.
It's 5 things to know. The listicle from the FDA. And so, number one, Delta-8 products have not been evaluated or approved by the FDA for safe use and may be marketed in ways that put the public health at risk. Rutrow said all of my people that are out there with one of my Delta-8. And I'm not saying the other 3 letters because Google has updated its algorithm to scrub for that. But as long as you guys are joining us, don't forget to thank our corporate overlords by liking and subscribing and then leaving something in the comments. Really appreciate that. It really helps us try to sort through all of the stuff that happens in this industry and try to be legal, but not be illegal. And that's very hard sometimes. So the FDA is aware of growing concerns surrounding Delta-8 TH something or other products currently being sold online and in stores. These products have not been evaluated or approved by the FDA for safe use in any context. Some concerns include variability of product formulations and product labeling, other cannabinoids and terpene content, and the variable Delta-8 something or other concentrations. Additionally, some of these products may be labeled simply as hemp products, which may further mislead consumers who associate hemp with non-psychoactive, period.
Well, do you remember, did you see the video where I did like my obsession with hemp? And then I walked into my local market and I saw a hemp toothpaste and a hemp brush. And then it's like, they're not marketing it CBD. They're not marketing Delta-8. They're marketing it hemp. And yeah, this is ridiculous as far as like, number 2, the FDA has received adverse event reports involving Delta-8 THC containing products.
Adverse event reports involving Delta-8 something or other containing products. Remember, those 3 little words that we don't like to say on this channel because they've been censored, which is crazy, but it's an algorithm, so we're not talking to a human. From December 2020 through January 2021, FDA received adverse event reports from both consumers and law enforcement, describing at least 22 patients who consumed these Delta-8 products. Of these, 14 presented to a hospital. That means they went to a hospital.
Yeah.
Room for treatment following ingestion means edibles. Of 22 patients, 19 experienced adverse effects after ingesting Delta-8 food products, brownies, or gummies. Adverse effects included vomiting, hallucinations, trouble standing, and loss of consciousness.
Yeah. So, I mean, look, I know like that you can take too much cannabis. I've done that when I first moved out here in Washington State. And matter of fact, I think your body has to adapt, right? Kind of like with the vitamin C thing, right? You know,
your body. Did you remember that first time you had some whiskey or some vodka, like the first hard liquor experience you ever had?
Yeah.
How did that go? Terribly, right? Just terribly. You don't know what you're doing. You're a kid. You weren't raised right, and so you think you can drink way more than you can. But no, you're not. You do not have to be tough when you are first trying ingestible something.
Oh yeah. Yeah. Or smokables, you know. I bet you a lot of these people too, you know, oh, it's weed. I smoked weed in high school. It's got to be whatever. And no matter whatever product you're doing, if you don't have the experience, you should take it in intervals. Not like I'm gonna just eat the whole brownie. You know,
that's right. And so but that's one of the things with the regulation. I'm not trying to get against Delta-8, but I'm saying that if there's no regulation, they're going to fill the void because nobody's watching what's going on.
But
but like vitamin C doesn't get you where Delta-8 does.
Well, I mean, but Delta doesn't really get you really like
you had one of their 100 milligram gummies. Let's say like Mickey is going to do 100 milligram gummy challenge with D8 and get at us at Cannabis Industry Lawyer, because we already have people that have like D8 companies in Texas. Like,
I'll do
sponsor your 420 somewhere and like send you some products. Well, there you go. If you're tuning in, Mickey just said yes.
I'll do them, and I'll be like, hey, nothing happened. Just like a cannabis event where you just go to
9-1 and then I'll wait for you.
But yeah, right. This is ridiculous. And again, it just goes to the people inexperienced in consumption. Because, you know, even when I was experienced, am experienced, you know, I've smoked in more than half my life. I remember Yeah, I remember smoking some, going to a friend's house, and then asking for a drink, and then he has nothing but edibles in his fridge. So it was smoking, edibles, and then more smoking.
Wow.
3 hours later, I thought the world was going to
3 hours. All
well,
right.
no, that's when it all kicked in, like the panic attack and but that's the worst case scenario.
Yeah.
You're no one's ever died from cannabis, ever.
Well, no, you're forgetting all those people who were crushed by bales of it. But number 3 in the FDA's listy top 5 things that you as a consumer need to be warned about with Delta-8. Delta-8 has psychoactive and intoxicating effects. Delta-8 something or other has psychoactive and intoxicating effects similar to Delta-9 something or other. This is the FDA reporting this, i.e. the component responsible for the high, in quote, people may experience from using cannabis. The FDA is aware of media reports of Delta-8 products getting consumers high. Why don't they say like the sensation? Can you describe this without trivializing it, FDA? But anyway, I guess they are worried that Delta-8 may get you high as opposed to have psychoactive effects. Thus, historical use of cannabis cannot be relied upon in establishing the level of safety for these products in humans.
What?
The FDA is also concerned about that Delta-8 products likely expose consumers to much higher levels of the substance than are naturally occurring in hemp cannabis raw extracts. Now they're saying that this natural versus synthetic thing is coming to a regulator near you. That's right. You, person who's been running a Delta-8 ring in their closet and then trying to get into THCO. I shouldn't have said those 3 letters. My bad. Take number 4, Miggy. Take number 4.
Yeah, so Delta-8 products often involve use of potentially harmful chemicals to create the concentration of Delta-8 claimed in the marketplace. And then they're talking about the extraction process. Some of it, you freeze it, or you nitrogen, or you shock it with solvents. And then the other forms of extraction. The natural amount of Delta-8 in hemp is very low, and additional chemicals are needed to convert cannabinoids in hemp, like CBD, into Delta-8, i.e. synthetic conversion. Concerns of this process include some manufacturers may use potentially unsafe household chemicals to make Delta-8 through the chemical process. And again, when we talk about regulation, testing is part of regulation.
Heck yeah.
And if we allowed testing, we would find these bad products, these bad components in the unit.
I think that's what we're going to get. I mean, the USDA has been regulating the hemp cultivation, but there is no such thing, as far as I'm aware, as a hemp processor's license at the federal level. In Illinois, you have to also have a hemp processor's license. Sometimes these are called handler's licenses in agricultural law, depending on which jurisdiction you are residing in. And that is one of the methods that they could use to create a better regulated CBD or hemp extract and derivative market, because you're going to have to be GMP certified, just like the THC side of the plant.
Sure.
That's what's coming down with the Cannabis Regulation and Tax Act, or whatever Schumer's bill is actually called. And then that means that, why aren't you GMP certified? And a lot of the producers, they just aren't.
Well, right now hemp still has a major unfair advantage over its brother sister cannabis, as far as full plant. And like I talked about before, in Washington State, they've allowed Delta-9 extracts to be infused into the recreational market, which to me is ridiculous. Like, such an unfair advantage for the regular cannabis farmer versus the hemp farmer, at least in a regulated market when it's like this regulated, seed to sell.
Sure.
Hemp doesn't have seed to sell.
Right. But as a craft grower, I'm going to probably want to be buying into the CBD market so that I can then create my own THC and then sell that. Or, CBN. That was one of the models that was off of the nice people out of Oregon that I should return their call. And so they are turning hemp extracts into a CBN product, and CBN has got a higher valuation than the Delta-8, but it's kind of difficult to get to. Anyway, we're trying to keep a tight 10 on this here. Top 5 listy. Got to get listy on this.
Go for it.
All right, Delta-8 products should be kept out of the reach of children and pets, and this is true. And so I don't like how a lot of the Delta-8 retailers just rip off the trademarks and trade copyrights or trade dress of candy companies, and then just try to pass off their gummies or whatever as candy. and they aren't child-proof. Some Delta-8 providers, they do actually use like a child-proof pill container, and they should, because those gummies are like 100 milligrams.
Well, and I also blame the parent involved. You know, like when you're in a gas station getting your CBD gummy,
Right.
you should really make sure it's out of their hands. I mean, you're responsible. It's not like, you know, sharp knives.
I know, but there's no test to determine whether or not you're going to be a good parent. You know, you don't have to take a test and pass it, except for a pregnancy test. I guess you would. Well, I mean, that is the only test that I know of that you need. And that's only to see if you are pregnant. It's not even to see if, you know, anyway.
You know what we missed?
Yeah.
On number 4, we missed how they and their concerns about the harmful chemicals. They're saying potentially some manufacturers use unsafe household chemicals, but the like with the vitamin C acetate, they're saying concern about like the carrier, which, I mean, if you really cared about the consumer, lab regulation, lab testing requirements. I mean, that's just it. It's not hard. I mean,
it's not, but then it's hard in the sense that they don't know what they're regulating. They're like, what? I don't do that stuff.
But they know enough to tell you not to keep it out of the hands of the children.
They do know enough to tell you what they should be doing with your business.
Exactly. I mean, again,
well, a lot of hemp farmers are worried now, because if this is, and again, like, I'm going to have to update my Delta-8 compliance letters. And so my opinion letters, they are of a particular date for a particular cannabinoid through a particular process. And again, like I said, I believe that we're going to see changes to the definition of hemp in the 2022 Farm Bill. And this is all prelude to that.
Well, we still also got the the infrastructure bill coming up. It's going to include all the testing for the regulations coming up eventually.
Let's hope so, because, you know, that's just what's going to happen. But I don't think that we're going to see legal that other chemical it starts with Delta-9. I don't think that's going to be federally legal for at least 3-5 years.
I mean, as far as like a law passing and then we do the infrastructure, you're thinking it'll take that long to get an infrastructure.
How long have they been trying to pass the Safe Banking Act?
Right. Because the process is just horrible. Again,
right.
We just enforce the filibuster.
Yeah, right.
And make them work. Right. You know, but these are the parliamentary part of it is the thing that eludes most people. You know, the Safe Banking Act has to put on the calendar. When Schumer's crying about we're not going to pass your bill until we get our bill, I mean, who wins in this? Nobody.
Nobody. But I want to go to Wikipedia to see where it was originally. I mean, if it was only initially introduced in 2019. So, yeah, it was only in 2019, March 7th of 19, they filed the Safe Banking Act, and they have never passed it. And so it's not actually all that old. And if the Safe Banking Act passes, then I'd say, all right, well, Schumer filed that bill this year. So 2023, maybe we would be able to see federal legalization. But I bet the Democrats put it on the 2024 ballot because they're rigged.
Right.
And they're going to want to use that as a reason to get out the vote. And
which is lame. Again, we're just manipulating the people and not actually coming up with solutions to the issues that we have. You know,
you watch if future Biden, if he doesn't die in 2023, is like, I'm evolving on this issue.
Yeah, right. Well, I mean, I already waited 8 years the first time, so you know, I don't know, man.
Well, yeah, nobody can tell. I mean, the industry moves too darn fast for anything to really make any sense.
Does the new regulations address seed to sales at all?
No. The new regulations, from my understanding, the Cannabis Administration and Opportunity Act didn't speak to seed to sale, but I only read it once, and so maybe it's in there. These aren't regulations; these are administrative guidance.
Right.
And so, like, you see this before you see the DEA starting to kick down your doors. And remember, I've reported on this, like when the vape mailing ban went into effect, but then the U.S. Postal Service punted on that. So even though it's been in effect since like March 20 something or other, it's only been effective. They didn't start enforcing it until April 27th. And then they punted on April 19th when they said that there was more continued guidance. And I'm basically kind of paraphrasing a lot of the stuff that I do for work. And then what happened was now they have this that's out. And now if the United States Post Office comes back and they're like, okay, no. And then all these companies that are selling D8 online, watch out.
Well, yeah. But I mean, it's kind of the same thing that happened here in Washington with our medical, man. It's like when recreational came about, there were still two separate existing industries or whatever markets. And then the legislatures and people paid off and figured out how to cut and dice the medical scene. That's what happens. They let you know, hey, we're coming for you. Yep. So unless you're proactive and start creating that regulation and thinking that you can be involved in that parliamentary procedure, somebody else who's more boring than you is going to take over and make up the rules.
Yeah, and they are. But then think about it. Big Cannabis doesn't want D8. They want you to buy their products. And so they want hegemony in the market. They don't want to share.
I don't know, man, because like you got all these Canadian companies that are invested into like the CBD shits.
Well, I didn't say CBD.
Well, I mean like the different components of the cannabinoids, which I just throw them all in one big mess. As far as like if you're going to isolate,
I don't throw them all in one big mess. Throw them all into the mess of like, why are you buying it? And so there are a lot of people that are buying D8 or THCO for a particular purpose.
Right?
CBN, they're basically buying for sleep, and then CBD for health wellness. Same with D9, health wellness, or like what I got a hike, I have anxiety. They have a purpose behind why they use the product. For example, later I'm going to buy some orange pie because it's delicious.
I just mean like coming from a legal state who has been around it for a while and has had access to.
Better take a small break, everybody.
You're looking
it looks like we're getting some feedback on this one. So to the 156 people that are watching, this is the largest amount of audience that we've had in some time. Comment down there and let us know if we've been coming up in your feeds, because there's been some very interesting algorithmic stuff that we have to put up with on this beautiful platform. And so if you haven't been able to see us lately, let us know in the comments, and then also smash that like, and then click the bell, because, well, if you click the bell and you're already a subscriber, it'll override it, because this is for 18 plus. There's a 99% likelihood that you're over 18. I've looked at our data. So it's just that we actually have 150 people tuned in. They'd really have dialed us down,
Oh yeah, no, I've heard that some people aren't even getting when they hit the bell, and which just drives us crazy. We're like the two most boring people when we're talking about policy and maybe culture, some of the cool stuff, but for the most part, we're just trying to like change the law as far as like the right way to do it.
And we'll get you licensed. I mean, like we're trying to regulate the plant and make sure that people can get into the industry. And that's hard, because getting like kicking the door down into the industry, depending on where you live, is either impossible or still quite difficult. And so like, I'm not saying that it's easy to go into Oklahoma and get in the industry. You still got to do the work. You still got to sell the plant. And I just saw something in Illinois, not to mention prices and quantities, but you can get like 3.58 grams for $40 for certain strains in the retail outlet in which that I buy flowers. I like how to say all of that stuff to avoid an algorithm.
Yeah, and that's the thing, right? We talk about pricing. We're trying to just inform people like what it is in each state. There used to be remember when the tuna talked about how he used to use the High Times magazine, because they used to have a stock report of like each city, and it would talk about.
My High Times is at home and not at work, and so I'm still a subscriber, but they still publish the price of an O all over the country, and in the States.
But you do that on YouTube.
Yeah,
you do that on YouTube.
Flagged. Yeah, I love that. I was so upset though. The one episode that we did together, in Seattle, we immediately got flagged for. And so like most people never saw the episode that we did together, because we're showing all the cool stuff that we had gotten from the local providers.
Yeah, it was that time we had Eddie Lepp too. You talked to him, had your interview with him. Man, I miss those times. And when I'm going to be going on a great adventure coming up this week, and I'm going to. Thank you. Hi again.
Yep. Hi again. Hi again. Thanks for the $10. Shout out to you.
But yeah, I'm going on a great adventure, man. I'm going to Houston, and I'm going to be driving across to California to see family. And I'm going to be doing safety check-ins though throughout the whole time, because Texas.
Yeah, be careful. Be careful in Texas, because in Texas, I hear Rihanna dresses up as a life-size joint.
Rihanna took her love for marijuana to the next level for Dazed, posing in magazine's 30th anniversary issue, wearing a custom joint dress by Jara Eileen in raw materials that looks like a high fashion Halloween costume for stoners. Or how do you get a billionaire to pose in a joint?
Wait, hang on a second. Let's see if it's high fashion Halloween costume for stoners. Can we see how Rihanna's face looks in that joint again? Yeah, that would get really annoying really quick.
Not happy. Not happy. You would be smiling at it, or you'd be like, just.
You have no idea how hot it is in that J. You know.
It's true story, man. Hey, but in good news for most people, Justice Department bans chokeholds and no-knock raids for federal officers by the Independent.
Nice. The United States Department of Justice announced it's banning chokeholds and no-knock entries throughout its department. Fantastic.
The change will prevent federal law enforcement officers from conducting unannounced raids and from using cardioid restraints unless deadly force is authorized.
Cardioid restraints. And who is the authorizer of the deadly force? Is that somebody's job?
Right? Ooh, that'd be a horrible job. 911. Yeah, kill him.
I'm not sure if the guy from 911 is allowed. Is he the authorizer? But anyway, the Attorney General Merrick Garland said in a statement, "Building trust and confidence between law enforcement and the public we serve is central to our mission at the Justice Department."
The limitations implemented today on the use of chokeholds, cardio restraints, and no-knock warrants, combined with a recent expansion of body-worn cameras to DOJ's federal agents, are among the important steps the department has taken to improve law enforcement safety and accountability. And I really think because this is federally, it will stick. I think they'd be wearing their cams, right?
Well, I just think this is the difference. This is the difference that administrations make. This would not have become a policy, I think, if the administration hadn't changed in the past election. Just right. People have different goals. And I think this was more their goal. I mean, this is a great step forward. And it really means that the stuff that happened in the marches that they did in 2020, they changed law. Well, they didn't change necessarily laws, but they've changed official administrative policy. And so the people that are trying to legalize weed, they need to get out in the streets just as much as they got out of the streets to ban these types of chokeholds last year. Because this is getting ridiculous, Yeah. And so hopefully we can have more activism next spring with smokeouts and going to the Congress or even in your local community and saying, hello. I mean, think about New Jersey. It's legal there and it's still 71% illegal. Or in California where it's legal, but it's still half illegal,
Well, and it just overall prohibition is just not helping us. It's not helping the American citizen, whether it be for rights or a job, or even just fundamentally knowing right from wrong, like giving the law enforcement, here's your order of importance to go after.
Yeah, but this is amazing policy changes that have happened. Like Breonna Taylor was killed when those police in Louisville were executing a no-knock raid at her apartment, and they're at the wrong place. And then chokeholds and other restraints were used to restrict blood flow to the brain of George Floyd for that. Oh gosh, it was almost 9 minutes, and that police officer Derek Chauvin kneeled on his neck.
And let's not forget about the goddamn cigarettes for Eric Gardner in goddamn New York. For whatever reason, these guys feel the need to manhandle people over a cigarette or a fake Confederate $20 bill or smell. These are not issues to go mess with people. These are not issues to detain you and keep you away from your loved ones.
Yeah, life, liberty, and pursuit of happiness. The fuck you care if I'm, doing something with a piece of thing that resembles a cigarette? Yeah,
this is But the policy does recognize, however, that there may be rare circumstances when there is justification other than physical safety to execute a no-knock entry. The press statement said, if an exception is sought, then there is no imminent threat of physical safety. The agent must first get approval from the head of the law enforcement component of the U.S. Attorney and relevant Assistant Attorney General before seeking judicial authorization for a no-knock warrant. I never understood the whole no-knock warrant thing, though. It's we know where you live.
It's the spoliation of evidence.
Well, but
the dangerousness of it all. And so it's hey, if they know we're coming, they're going to flush all those drugs down the toilet. And so then how are we going to prove that they did it? It's one of those deals where it's well, if you know that, Is there a plumbing that goes out from his house? Oh, there is. All right, well, go capture that water.
Seriously though,
Why don't you? How come you didn't like put up a wire on the water and then just knock and announce and then wait until they start flushing cocaine? Then you have that evidence and be like, we already know. We expect you in court by tomorrow. You know,
right? I mean, another name for a no-knock warrant is a home invasion.
Home invasion. That's and then like the errors that happen too. They're the wrong place.
Seriously, or yeah. I mean, we've. This is how people die from cannabis and prohibition, not for the plant itself.
That's how people die from the drug war. I mean, like again, opioids are bad. You shouldn't do those. You shouldn't equate opioids and cannabis. You shouldn't. But then the federal law literally does. It's like here's heroin, here's marijuana, same thing, according to the law. Freaking annoying.
And that's why. That's why our citizenry remains ignorant, because we got butthead politicians being like, well, that's illegal, or you should have complied. Well, I mean, separate drinking fountains were a thing at one time, man.
Yeah, I know, right?
Like the law's always right.
But then there's some more stuff to report. DC cannabis growers say it's high time for a new testing lab. The Outlaw is reporting.
DC's medical cannabis industry is poised for growth this year as the local regulators open up a fresh round of licensing to entrepreneurs hoping to cash in on the medicinal weed.
Nice.
Last month's DC's Alcoholic Beverage Regulation Administration, ABRA, announced an open application period for the registration of 2 new cultivation centers, 1 dispensary, and 2 testing labs. Applicants have until April 21st. So I guess because DC has the legal market where you have $20 stickers, but their lab testing is just not there as far as I read another.
There's none. It's all just gifts. It's all growing gift in as far as I'm aware in DC's market. People may be operating, but if they're operating, they're doing so without a license and without threat of enforcement stopping them. But that's going to be extremely limited. 2 cultivation centers, and DC isn't the best place to grow weed because it's a city. You know, like I'd be like, can't you do that in Virginia? But and then they have 1 dispensary. What is the population of frickin' DC? You can have 1 dispo?
Bigger than most states, I believe.
Yeah, right.
I mean, it's crazy how they're, yeah. But, you know, I also read another article, same website, the Outlaw Report. They talked about the applications for labs in there. There was like over 100 labs.
Right. It's about 700,000.
Yeah. Well, it's the size of Seattle. Damn.
Size of Seattle. Yeah. And so a city the size of Seattle, 1 dispo. Are you kidding?
But see, that's the problem with this regulation we got going on with prohibition, right? Like it's like with Florida. I mean, we just enable these monopolies, which is ridiculous. I mean, who's going to win that one? Can we follow the money?
I'm trying to find if there's Washington cannabis store, Capital Care Dispensary. Is this? But am I in Washington D.C. or am I in Washington? Oh no, it's Washington D.C. There are dispensaries that are on the map in Google Maps for well, that's in Nebraska.
Well, if you're in DC, will you let us know if there's any dispensaries around you or what the DC market's like?
Evidently, there's tons. I mean, here, let me share my screen, which is let me not do that actually. But if you Google Washington D.C. medical cannabis dispensary, you will find them, and then and we are not going to, as I will, and then try to report on it as opposed to show it to you, because I'm assuming if we show you on the map where to go get the stuff, that has to violate their terms.
Another flag.
Another flag, right? Come on, cheeseburgers.
I mean, we're constantly just going against the. But anyway, so according to the ABRA's website, it costs $3,500 to apply for the new cannabis testing facility. So you can apply still, and labs must pay $7,500 to renew light. Wow, that's a lot.
Holy moly! No, they have sales. I mean, this is great. You know how much 1/8 of flour for Jack Herer is from this dispensary menu in Washington D.C.?
Hopefully under 40.
No way. It is $56.
Again, this the prohibition is hurting the patients when it comes to like the legalization and the way we're doing it.
Yeah, it sure is. Red terpinolene. Red terpinolene. That sounds like a delicious one, doesn't it?
Is that the name of a store?
No, it's a sunflower brand. $48 per 3.5 grams. Yeah. It's not bad. I mean, like that's what I really enjoy about the stuff. Oh wow, Oregon at 15. But I like it that there's so many different varied brands all over the country, and so like I've never seen these brands. Sunflower, Orange Means also by Sunflower. There's another brand called Soul. Never heard of that brand.
But see, I think that we will never hear, like there'll always be a bunch of brands we never hear of, right? Because to become an MSO, each state's got a different.
It's the roll up, and so like, states looking for their own stuff that's going on to shelves near you, and then eventually they'll go public. I can't wait for that. That's going to be such a pump and dump. 2023 or whenever it happens, where it'll be legal. All these companies will get listed, and then they'll just start eating one another.
Well, I think they'll realize that they've been bad business practices. They're not doing the best for either practices for the consumer or for their employees. What they're trying to do is the big money grab, and we own it right now because you can't come play.
Do you know what like the capitalists like to call that?
Monopoly?
No, creation of shareholder value. So we are creating value for shareholders like never before at my cannabis company.
That sucks, but it's true. I mean, that's probably how exactly talk about. Well, we blocked another market today. We created shares.
We really returned a lot of value for our shareholders when we stopped all of our competitors from gaining this market.
That makes me sad. You know what makes me not sad?
That's the game that is the capitalism. What does not make you sad?
Naming a strain.
Name that strain. That does make me feel good. There it is.
Ooh.
I would classify this one as an heirloom strain, but actually it would be the stage that's right after heirloom. So this wouldn't be heirloom, but its parents are heirloom strain. And
Definitely.
then this one. And so this one goes way, way back. And so if you can go back to the 90s, this was quite amazing. And there's
huge. I feel the stickiness of it right now. I feel the sticky of this little nodular bud.
Yep.
That forest green with the orange hairs.
The orange hairs, forest green, hand trimmed, never compressed or over dried. So this isn't popcorn. You wouldn't see this on your shelves in your local dispo. This one looks like you'd be paying a premium for it.
This is the stuff like back in the day when I didn't have a name. Almost. When I didn't have a name for stuff, I'd be like, yo, I got some red hair for you. I got some.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it was difficult to understand the names because none of the cultivation genetics were really, but they were and they weren't. And so like genetic cultivations was taking place in the 90s, like on the DL. So like the, Kush OG out of the 90s, I thought was in Florida. And then you'd have Bubblegum or Bubba Kush coming out of Indiana. And so it's totally illegal there. And that's why they were indoor strains. But then you'd have different stuff coming out on the West Coast. And now it's kind of fun. And that's one of the things that I'm going to really enjoy about the whole interactions with the crew. What type of strains are we running and why?
Yeah, no kidding. That's going to be fun. Dude, there was a lot of half guesses. It's funny when you name weed, how like there's like Kush, like things like that, like Obama Kush and all that other crap.
Right.
And then like there's a lot of similarities. Like a lot of people are getting like half of it right.
Well, it's because like let's just kind of give them a little tip, and then we're going to talk about a really important story while you guys guess, and then if you guys hit it, we'll give you a shirt. And then so this is a sativa bred by Greenhouse Seeds. And in better news, the Washington Post is reporting college students have record high marijuana use and record low drinking in 2020. That is substantially different than it was 20 years ago, when I remember a record amount of drinking and my cannabis use being completely condemned, said that it was terrible and bad, could have gotten expelled for it.
I thought somebody had it, but never mind. What's funny, dude? You should read this the way like obviously like Anheuser-Busch read it. Colleges report evil marijuana uses at a high when drinking's out low. We got
Yep. Well, but the coronavirus, the pandemic that has killed 658,000 more Americans than marijuana and infected 41 million, has upended economies and moved classes to bedrooms, and still may have another change for college students: less booze, more cannabis. A newly released study found that nearly half the country's college-age students said they consumed cannabis last year, leading researchers to wonder whether the pandemic may have spurred the record change in the plant's consumption. Chad is the man. Of course he is. Of course, Chad would nail that, and does not surprise me in the slightest. Chad, let me know. Hit me up at Cannabis Industry Lawyer on Instagram or at cannabisindustrylawyer.com. Actually, you can't hit me up there. That just only leads you to a forum to see if we can help you.
Speaking of Chad, he mentioned him and High again are talking in a little chat I saw back and forth, and he mentions that today there's a very big protest in Michigan for patients' rights. So if you're in Michigan, look that up. I couldn't tell you where to go right away.
There's some patients' rights activism that's going on in Michigan because they're trying to fundamentally alter how the caregiver program works, shrinking it from 72 plant gardens to 24 plant gardens. And well, that's right. Yikes. And the regulations are different. So and then can you sell into both? That's the other thing. I need to have John Makowicz on so we could talk deep dive into cannabis news in Michigan. It's it's the Oklahoma of the Midwest.
Yeah, sure. Because with this the study about the college use, the pandemic seems to have actually made marijuana into an alternative, escape the monotony of isolation. I love it.
The alternative good theory, something that I've been espousing for years. Now, one of the things that was also glaringly obviously missing in my college experience was you couldn't just go out and smoke weed like you could. How I went to the cannabis consumption lounge over in Peoria, High Harbor. That was cool.
Well, I mean, we're in a whole different world from 20 years ago, man. Like,
I know. Awesome.
That's what legalization is about. It's about having options. It's about wellness options.
When we Bill and Ted ourselves and go back in time and like meet our us from college, we'll be like, don't worry, it's going to be freaking awesome, but it's going to take forever.
I don't know.
It's still going to be really stupid and terrible.
I did a lot of psychedelics back then. I probably wouldn't. I'd be like, dude, is that me? Fat and
me?
bald?
Oh, it's a good thing I'm on mushrooms.
Damn right.
The Monitoring the Future study was funded by the NIDA and has been tracking drug use amongst college students and non-college adults aged 18 to 22 since 1980. Research is conducted in the 2020 edition online, querying up 1,500 young adults between March 20, 2022 and November 30, 2022, so prime pandemic lockdown time, after the coronavirus pandemic had hit the United States. According to the report, 44% of college students reported using marijuana in 2020, an increase of 38% in 2015, and an uptick in daily or near daily usage from 5 to 8%.
Maybe it's not just like the whole solo thing that's also part of it, but maybe the kids are just smarter. Like alcohol sucks. Like you drink too much alcohol.
The health impact of alcohol relative basis to the cannabinoids. Mm-hmm. Yes, that sucks. That profile really sucks. But I don't think people care, and I don't think people are all that smart enough to really figure it all out. Like, do they really? Can we teach our kids the metabolic pathways of the various substances that are out there? Coffee, alcohol, cocaine. And remember, it's not cocaine, it's cocaine. And then opioids, relative harms. Why haven't the children or even the general population been educated regarding the relative harms of the specific substances? How come they're all lumped into drugs? And then there's a slippery slope that goes from as soon as you have coffee, straight on to heroin.
Seriously, though, like how many what kind of with alcohol, many bad decisions, right? From physical assaults to damaged property. What happens when you're consuming too much cannabis? Like, what happens? But yet the desire to just take a nap.
I don't know. I think it's going to turn out to be more along the lines of a coffee or one of those types of things where there's a supplemental aspect to it. I mean, people that eat broccoli live longer. People that exercise live longer. People that reduce their inflammation, they just do. And that's what we're going to kind of probably come to see. So your cannabis habit is fine. And if anything, that might be why Dr. Michelum is still alive. And that might also be why Dr. Lester Grinspoon lived into his 90s and Tommy Chong's still alive. And, it helps maintain your homeostasis. Yeah, and of course, what else?
Yeah, no, we got more old stoners alive now than we do old alcoholics.
Right. We have to see the long-term effects cut to all these old men. Yeah.
I mean, seriously, we're still studying.
Still studying that stuff.
It's crazy.
Trying to find the smoking gun. Found a lot of other smoking things, tell you that much.
Well, speaking of the smoking gun, anti-doping group will review cannabis ban after Sha'Carri Richardson suspension in NPR. This really just gets my chaps because this is about plans for next year. Like, why are you making announcements about like questioning the efficacy of cannabis? Do it now. Do it now so people don't be stressed. They just today was the trial for the horrible gymnast that assaulted all the women.
No, I thought he was like their coach.
Or whatever. I don't know.
Yeah.
It's just a bad
It was
person.
on the morning news too. I was like, some people are gross. And then the worst thing was that Norm Macdonald died. So I should just continue to impersonate Norm Macdonald for at least the next 5 years, because he was great.
But it just gets my goat when all this like talk about like we're going to reconsider what is right and wrong in the world, but next year. No, do it now. Just like you should pass the Safe Banking Act and pass the goddamn anything else with the word cannabis and freedom.
Right. Anything.
I don't care.
Right.
The Norm one was pretty interesting too. Like,
I like this other part of the study. Binge drinking fell from 32% to 2%, mostly because you couldn't go spring break. I mean, like only the crazy. I'm not going to say that, but there was just way less opportunity to go to those keggers and the parties because everything was closed.
Oh, they probably were in Florida. That's why.
Well, Florida's never really closed. They just said, you can't make me wear anything. That's why I moved to Florida. It was my I don't want to wear that policy. I mean, I moved to a beach. Sometimes they arrest me because I don't want to wear that.
Don't get me started, dude. Again, I'm going through Texas, so I gotta brace myself for the whole world of they don't exist, and 5G's gonna get you.
Just make sure that you get your firearm permit, dust that out, put your Colt Peacemaker in the trunk, and then of course wear a hat and profess your fondness for barbecue and for freedom. And then don't really talk politics at all.
I'm halfway there, but the only guns I got are these ones.
That's a good joke. And I would use that joke. But, watch out about making jokes about weed.
Oh, God. I was kind of, yeah. And again, I mean, I'm going to be driving through 1940 as fast as I can.
Yeah, I feel that way when I'm in Indianapolis. I'm just like, it's a cool place. Can't wait to leave. I just don't like being a criminal hanging out. Like, and so at least in Florida, I could be like, well, I'll try to qualify as a medical patient with my medical card here in case anything goes wrong.
Well, here's what kills me, man. So like all this talk, like with the vaccine and the mask mandate bullshit, right? And then you hear a lot of people like the Joe Rogan thing. He moved to Texas because of freedoms, right? And all this other crap. But like, I'm about to go there and I'm about to have less freedoms and feel more apprehensive about how I live in my personal day-to-day. Like, God forbid I had a joint on me and get pulled over speeding or something. I don't know. I just don't feel the love down there.
Yeah, and I'm sure that Joe Rogan would fare far better than you if you got arrested for weed in Texas.
Right. Well, his Tesla versus my whatever.
Well, his money's
exactly.
Really change these laws. But Richardson might also be helping to change. If not, it was definitely policy, like the policy in the rule book of the World Anti-Doping Agency. That would be great, but it really sucks that she was denied. She probably would have won. I mean, like we don't know that because it didn't happen, but she was the favorite.
But that's what I was talking about, like with the thing, the trial today is like, because a lot of it happened today. Those young ladies during the Olympics stepped out during for mental health, right? They said, hey, and then people made a big deal about it, like, oh, you try so hard, and yet you cop out right before the thing. No, she had to take care of herself, and if cannabis was an option, and maybe that might be helped her, like treat this PTSD or whatever. But the fact that we're gonna wait till next year to decide if cannabis is gonna benefit the athlete. That's ridiculous.
It's the next Olympics don't start until February, right?
Yeah, but it is a doping agency, isn't it? So I imagine they have more influence in sports overall, right? The world.
Yeah, I already remember that. So like the Olympics have already gotten hyped because like the Olympics should be starting about the same time as the Super Bowl, and whatever television company that showed me that commercial then when I was watching football over the weekend must have already zeroed in on this. But can we get the policy changed? A new version is due out to come out by October 1st. So if that happens, can the policy get changed before the Winter Olympics? So it's not going to happen to another sports star in a different Olympics.
You know what? It will at least let them treat themselves too now. Okay, so cannabis is not going to get me fired or quit. So now I can treat my body. Here's a better option besides the pills that are grounded up or any other stuff that they try and shove down your throat. So, in my opinion.
In my humble opinion, says Mingy420. And so, moving on to the next wonderful stories that we have. Stock news. We're going to hit a bumper on this one.
Akerna to acquire 365 Cannabis, built on Microsoft's Dynamic 365 Business Central, and become the most comprehensive cannabis ERP system, offering a complete portfolio of tax, financials, reporting, and compliance systems.
When we saw comments, the MSOs said, good. And all the other mom and pops said, I can't afford that. Going back to QuickBooks.
Dude,
that's it. That is it. And when you have an ERP platform, you are trying to patch together so many gosh darn businesses, and you're doing consolidating. Think about like a really complex tax return. That's when you need ERP software.
Well, and I think so. Like we've talked about, like how you're getting ready now. You're helping your customer get their SOPs and all the requirements for manufacturing, all the stuff behind there.
Right.
That program, something like that. Like you said, the big dogs, they're going to love that. They're going to be able to eat it up, or even like a good QMS system. If you have that, these are all the things that you're going to use for your audits. Instead, if you're a small mom and pop, can't afford this $10,000, $20,000 program, you're going to have a pile of books that you're going to show up to your audit.
You're going to try to, because that was something that was going around. I'm not sure if we're going to have that. We'll get to it after this stock news, but MailChimp made an announcement regarding something that may affect any of the cannabis companies that are using MailChimp to run their email campaigns, because they were bought by QuickBooks, Intuit, and a lot of cannabis companies are using QuickBooks.
Yeah, and it's funny how I think Microsoft changed a policy on cannabis, at least how they view not employment wise, but like how they deal with businesses, because they have. Well, again, this system was built off of a cannabis system or a Microsoft system, so they're invested somewhat.
Microsoft's got a lot of code.
Yeah. So the Akerna, an enterprise software leading compliance technology provider and developer of the cannabis industry's first. Did you read this part already?
Nope.
Oh, okay.
But you can go ahead and then we'll get the next one.
Okay. As a result of the acquisition, 365 Cannabis, 85 plus clients will gain access to Akerna's compliance gateway, featuring rich reporting, MJ retail point of sales, and the recently launched Akerna Connect. Akerna has partnered with SAP, Sage Enact, and other leading providing for integrated financials and tax planning. Wow, that's some big names. Offering cannabis operators a solution for each stage of the evolution, from the startup to multi-state operator, while maintaining a regulatory compliance. I wonder if they're going to do like a tier pricing then. They're mentioning startups.
I'm gonna go ask them, like, hey, how much? And if it's just $11 billion, I'll be like, man, I can't afford them. They're $11 billion.
But it's software, so the more they sell, the more money they make. So,
and not only software, this is rent-seeking behavior, because very often you need to put a compliance plan into place, especially in New Jersey. They put that directly into the statute, compliance, and they'll probably put it into everybody else that's going to regulate the plant. How are you going to maintain compliance? I could just start writing the compliance plan right now for this ERP software and be like, how would you like another revenue stream? You sell them a $10,000 compliance plan and then the contract.
Sure. I mean, compliance is going to be the new chic when it goes federal, because everybody's going to have to meet it automatically. But until then, all these little fiefdoms, I get compliant now if I was you. If you're in the industry and you got a business, talk to Tom. Hit this guy up.
Well, I mean, people always like to talk, but, it's better to work. Anyway, moving on to the next one. Fire and Flower and Hifyre have completed an acquisition of PotGuide and Wikileaf. According to the PR Newswire, Fire and Flower Holdings was wholly owned subsidiary of Hifyre, and that has announced the closing of acquisition of all its outstanding shares of PGED Corp, which is PotGuide, one of the largest cannabis websites and content platforms, and certain digital assets of Wikileaf Technologies, an online platform for cannabis enthusiasts and consumers. And that that company stack right there is a wonderful example of why you need some help in this industry. Think of how many like corporate funding rounds that was to like get acquired all in this. It's just a very strange game. Most people that are operating and starting a business don't think about like, yeah, well, where are you going to get the next dollar as much as the cannabis industry does? Like, how are you going to structure your financing? There's 4 different companies in that. But dude, we should roll up CLN into one of those one day. Let's build that stuff out. Like we're the website's getting there, but then the content's already starting to get posted.
Exactly. Yeah. No, I mean, that's always been my game plan, is just been a content provider as far as with cannabis, like that's why I've been trying, especially I want to like go to prohibition states and talk to people out in that area. But these Wikileaf is in my neck of the woods. I visited them a couple of years ago. They just had a very small office in the Capitol Hill area. And, I didn't realize what they were doing. They're just like a little website. They wanted to be like Weed Maps originally, have your strain and your reviews and stuff. But they've gone on recently in the past year and got a bunch of content on YouTube and other things where they actually interview. They have Donnell Rawlings. He's a comedian, and they have him interviewing. I think it's like High Thoughts or something, the name of the show, whatever. But they found backing, and then with that backing, they got bought. Which, hey,
I'll tell you right now, I live in Peoria, Illinois. You live in Seattle. There are way more rich people in Seattle than there are in Peoria, Illinois. By like an order of magnitude, maybe like 100 times more, Yeah. And so one day you might meet them and then say, nice shoes. What's going on? And then you'll have a relationship with them. And by then we'll probably have a slide deck for the channel. And then you could call them back. Like, hey, you said you did this. Would you like to see that? And that's how you get around advertising requirements under Regulation D, Section 506B.
Regulation requirement or
it has to do with capital like funding. So when you're doing private placement memorandums and then capital raises through those vehicles, there are certain rules that you have to comply with to be in a safe harbor exception.
Yeah, that's why I got you. I'm not going to remember that.
That's fine. That's why we got. That is the world of the cannabis lawyer, especially when you got in the holdings and the licenses. All of a sudden, all this corporate shit throws up.
No, I'm that's the one thing. That's why when you asked to start doing this together, I was like, oh, hell yeah, I'm going to hang out with a lawyer who's been, someone in the industry, like, or in a known industry, the baking industry. Like, you've actively done things. And then, like I've always said, any job can transition to cannabis. If you're in advertising, you can do advertising in cannabis. If you're in accounting, you can be an accountant. That banking, though, that's going to be the foundation, the fundamental, the back of the bigger creepy stuff, beyond the managers.
Yep. More stock news. Cannabis company Green Thumb Industries, GTI, buys Holyoke mill space, according to the Daily Hampshire Gazette. Holyoke? How do you pronounce Holyoke?
Holyoke. The paper city continues to draw attention from cannabis companies, embracing the city's new status as rolling paper city. Neat.
Ooh. Neat.
Like that.
Earlier this month, I was going to say, Colebrook Realty Services announced that the national cannabis grower and retailers, GTI, had purchased the 326,664 square foot industrial mill at 100 Water Street that was long owned by Hampton Papers, and the purchase price was only $4.56 million, according to Colebrook, which represented the seller.
This is a reminder in the middle of the story that GTI tried to break up a union, or they stopped union gathering in what is the guest that we had?
Oh, it's I can't remember the name of the guest, but yeah, I don't know of any GTIs that are unionized in the state of Illinois, but
yeah, they're union busters.
Good luck in New Jersey then, because in New Jersey you're not a micro, you got to be union.
Well, the reason why I bring that up is because in my feed today popped up one of my local dispensaries. They just unionized. Ponder. Shout out to you guys for UFC, whatever they are now. But one of the country's largest marijuana companies, GTI, which does business locally as Rise.
Rise is its dispensary brand.
I hate how they do that. I hate how they
hire a brand consultant and pay them $100,000, and they say, this is the spreadsheets that I've prepared for you. Here's your fonts. Here's your color scheme. Here's your mission statement. This is what we're trying to go for. It doesn't seem like it was processed or like really polished at all, does it?
Yeah, no, I just want to be a mad child. I'd be like, I want transparency. I want everything you're attached to have like your stamp on it, so I can be like, I'm not going to go there, you know?
Right.
Or I will go there, whatever you're into.
Well, they have a lot. They have 13 manufacturing locations and 97 retail locations across the country. They are publicly traded. You can go buy their shares right now. Marijuana business has received a total of 40 licenses from the state's Cannabis Control Commission because this is in. Is this in Massachusetts, or is this in which state?
It is Daily Hampshire Gazette.
Daily Hampshire. That sounds like New Hampshire to me. Is it in New Hampshire?
Yeah, I think so. I'm about to pop it up right now. But also, you already read that part. The Water Street property has long owned by Hampden Papers, which was founded in 1880 as the Hampden Glazed Paper and Card Company and operated as a family-owned business in Holyoke for 5 generations. Last September, however, Hampton Papers was purchased by Kentucky-based company LL Flex. Interesting.
Yep. It's called the Daily Hampshire Gazette, which is in Northampton, Massachusetts. So I'm assuming that this is reporting out of the Massachusetts cannabis market. GTI is a player there.
That is crazy. Just another huge MSO.
They have the money. Like, they came into New Jersey as well. I mean, they won some ATCs in Jersey. They, on their application, they said, we got $40 million. We're coming in. We got the whole thing. And that's before they rolled into Massachusetts. I'm sure they rolled into Massachusetts like just deep. And then they can go to the public window and say, we're issuing more shares. We just acquired all these more licenses. We're going to authorize another 100 shares. And it goes for that price, So like the share price may go down, but new markets are going to come online next year, and it's going to sell more product.
And this is an example why MedMen's still in business. And I might be stopping by there next week just to say hi.
Well, it's one of those things, but that's kind of how it goes. The business of America is business.
Yeah, I know. I just like to be a bitch.
All right, that's going to do it for cannabis legalization news, guys. Thanks for watching. Make sure you like and subscribe to keep up with all cannabis legalization news. We'll see you on Sunday.